Waking up early is focusing on the wrong thing. And I'm being a little bit facetious with the title because I actually woke up at 5 this morning. But the point is, when people focus on the habits and routines of successful people, I used to do this and I used to wake up very early all the time, like 3:30, 4 years ago, and I still like the feeling. But when people focus on the habits and routines of successful people, it's like focusing on the shell of something. It's like a clue essentially that can point you in the right direction, but the habits and the routines and the structure is more like a train that's moving in a direction. And what actually matters is what is running the train inside, or what the passenger in the train is doing while it's moving. Kind of a weird analogy, but like none of the habits and routines matter if you're not doing the right things, if you're not performing the right actions, if you're not being effective in what you're doing. Then like what's the point of waking up at 3 in the morning if you're not actually working towards your goals or not being as effective as you can? And another reason why waking up early is dumb is because you have to get sleep either way. So all that really matters is what you're doing when you're awake. People that get up early have to go to bed earlier. People that get up later go to bed later. Everyone has to sleep. And that's another thing that used to mess with me is I actually require like 8 hours of sleep to perform at my best. I wish I could sleep less, and I've tried it, and it has a serious effect on my mood and ability to regulate my emotions, which is something that I've read also. So you could say perhaps that's something that I've just imbibed or whatever and believe, and so it has that effect upon me because of that. But I don't think so. Like there's a very noticeable effect on my mood. I'm way more irritable, much more impatient, and grumpy essentially. And I don't perform much foggier and don't perform well. And I used to, or I would hear all these rappers or business people or just anyone talking about how don't sleep. I don't sleep. I don't sleep much. Like Nas, specifically Nas, had a lyric about it, but tons of people have, and that would make me think like, do I need to sleep less? Do I actually need to sacrifice sleep in order to be successful? But that's ridiculous because we know you'll. Well, I wanted to say we know that you'll die sooner with less sleep. All these studies that have been done, but nonetheless, like if you actually are in tune with your body, then you'll know how much sleep you need, what kind of food you need, how often you need to eat, like all these things to take care of yourself. They're innate, they're natural. So the point is you have to sleep one way or another. It doesn't matter what time you wake up to get those things done. It just matters that A, you're doing the right things and getting them done and being effective. That being said, there is some sort of psychological effect in me personally in waking up before everyone else. I also sort of have the same feeling at night, but it's a little bit different. Like either way, and you hear a lot of other people talk about this, you need to have, or certain personalities, I need to have time alone in order to be most effective. I need to have time alone where no one is awake and then where there are zero interruptions. And when I personally do it in the morning, it does have this psychological it does seem to have the psychological advantage of it being, say, 9 a.m. and you've already got a bunch of work done. If it feels empowering and motivating, and you're also getting it done when you have the most energy and most clarity, because a lot of times when I save hard work or challenging work or deep work for late at night, depending on what I had already worked on that day, I might be sapped or zapped. And so there can be, good morning, bird. There can be a positive psychological effect that keeps you motivated and feeling powerful and inspired or whatever. But primarily, it's just figuring out what actually is moving you forward. And it reminds me of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, that 20% of the things you do have 80% of the effect on towards your goal. And it's really fascinating. Actually, it seems to apply to everything. Like, I believe the main study was noticing that in a yield of peas from a garden, that 20% of the plants yielded 80% of all the peas, the vegetables. And so if you apply that to your work, you just can think, okay, what are the tasks, what are the actions that actually lead towards my goal, not the things that you think lead to your goal. And it's not that hard to figure out. In the beginning, it's kind of vague and ambiguous. You don't necessarily know 100% of what works, like in marketing, or if you're creating art, you don't know which piece is going to work. But in the process, you can actually identify what needs to get done quicker, so in order to move forward, to save you time. Like, what are you working on that actually matters? So for example, if you're mastering a song or a mix and you spend 2 hours tweaking a hi-hat, like, is that really moving you forward? Probably not. The most important thing is getting the song done, making sure it sounds good, and moving on to marketing it or the next thing. Like, using your time on the important things. And it's kind of is a science and an art, because, like, how do you know when the song is completely done, when what is good enough, all of that. But once you do it for long enough, you kind of just get a sense of it. And it's like that with all things. There's a blanket statement for you. It's a really interesting question. It also reminds me of, I think it's a Tony Robbins thing, where he won't start a meeting without asking, okay, what is the outcome that we want from this meeting? Which is essentially just setting a goal, because obviously it would seem like common sense, but maybe it's not, that if you don't have a goal, even in a meeting, then people just ramble about whatever. You have to keep on track. And that can cut an hour meeting down to 2 minutes, or an email, maybe. Turn a meeting into an email. It's crazy how much BS and fluff you can cut through to focus on the thing that actually moves you forward. Most things that you're doing, that anyone is doing, don't matter. Even highly successful, productive people, like, just think about how much more effective you can be if you only did the effective things and you zeroed in on the very specific things that move you forward.